The 2021 Texas power crisis involved 3 severe winter storms sweeping across the United States. On February 10 to 11, 13 to 17, and 15 to 20, a massive electricity generation failure in the state of Texas, and resultant shortages of water, food, and heat. More than 4.5 million homes and businesses were left without power, some for several days. Although Republican officials including Governor Greg Abbott initially blamed the outages on frozen wind turbines and solar panels, inadequately winterized natural gas equipment was the primary cause. Also, Texas had isolated its power grid from the 2 major national grids in an effort to avoid federal oversight and deregulate its energy sector, making it difficult for the state to import electricity from other states. The crisis drew much attention to the state's lack of preparedness for such storms, and to a report from U.S. federal regulators 10 years earlier that had warned Texas its power plants would fail in sufficiently cold conditions. Damages from the blackouts were estimated at $195 billion, making them the costliest disaster in Texas history. According to the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, the Texas power grid was seconds or minutes away from complete failure when partial grid shutdowns were implemented. In 2011, Texas was hit by the Groundhog Day blizzard between February 1 and 5, resulting in rolling blackouts across more than 75% of the state. Many roads around Houston were impassable, and boil water advisories were issued in several areas. Following this disaster, the North American Electric Reliability Corporation made several recommendations for upgrading Texas electrical infrastructure to prevent a similar event occurring in the future. But these recommendations were ignored due to the cost of winterizing the systems. At the time, the blackouts and failures in the power grid were likened to those that occurred in December of 1989, after which similar recommendations were made to the state government and ERCOT, which were similarly ignored. On August 16, 2011, a 357-page report was released by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission in response to the February 2011 power outage in Texas. In mid-February 2021, a series of severe winter storms swept across the United States. This outbreak was due to the jet stream dipping particularly far south into the U.S., stretching from Washington to Texas, and running back north along the East Coast, allowing a polar vortex to bring very cold air across the country, and spawning multiple storms along the jet stream track as a result. This weather phenomenon resulted in record low temperatures throughout Texas, with temperatures in Dallas, Austin and San Antonio falling below temperatures in Anchorage, Alaska. On February 10, a winter storm formed north of the Gulf Coast, dropping significant amounts of sleet and ice on many states in the Deep South and the Ohio Valley, including Texas, Georgia, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, as well as states on the East Coast. A second storm developed off the Pacific Northwest on February 13 and began to gradually develop into an organized storm as it tracked southward toward Texas. It grew even more organized as it turned toward the northeast U.S. before splitting in half. One half continued into Quebec and the other moving out over the Atlantic Ocean. This storm, along with various other storms from the previous 2 weeks, resulted in over 75% of the contiguous U.S. being covered in snow. This storm was directly responsible for nearly 10 million people losing power, with 5.2 million in the U.S. and 4.7 million in Mexico. At least 70 people lost their lives, and a tornado outbreak from the storm spanned Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina. The winter storm caused a record low temperature at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport of -2 degrees F on February 16, the coldest in North Texas in 72 years. Power equipment in Texas was not winterized, leaving it vulnerable to extended periods of cold weather. Texas Governor Greg Abbott and some other politicians initially blamed renewable energy sources for the power outages, citing frozen wind turbines as an example of their unreliability. However, wind energy accounts for only 23% of Texas power output. Moreover, equipment for other energy sources such as natural gas power generating facilities either freezing up or having mechanical failures were more responsible. Viral images of a helicopter icing a Texas wind turbine were actually an image from Sweden taken in 2015. Governor Abbott later acknowledged that every source of power, not just renewable ones, had failed. 5 times more natural gas than wind power had been lost when power was cut. It disabled some compressors that push gas through pipelines, knocking out further gas plants due to lack of supply. During the 2011 Groundhog Day blizzard, Texas had faced similar power outages due to frozen power equipment, after which the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission reported that